Hello everybody. It is Saturday the 23rd of April. I want to talk about the book that I'm reading at the moment, Freedom, The End of the Human Condition by Jeremy Griffith. He's Australian. He's got a big thing going. There's a lot of people following him. And as you can see, I'm not very far into this book, but I'm already seeing a very big problem with this. And he has got a big and a growing following. So, although there is part of it is very true. Yeah. So, he is talking about what he calls the human condition. The alienated behavior that we display, the way that we constantly beat up on ourselves and on others, the fact that we feel separated from everything, and this separation, that between us as people, between us and nature, is actually the root of that is inside of ourselves. That we are made of two parts, and those parts have been alienated from each other. Yeah. So Jeremy Griffith explains this as the alienation between the intellect, the conscious mind, and the instinct, which is your lower nature. So far so good. I'm with him all the way. And he said that the alienation happened when we became conscious. That is to say, we started to reason. Okay, so far so good. And then he said that our instinct started judging our conscious mind. Yeah? So that this judgment, this feeling of judgment, is actually deriving from within ourselves. And then quoting the Bible, saying that as when we were thrown out of the garden because of our upset behavior, because we judged ourselves. And that is not what that book says. And I believe this book to be true, and his explanation of it a bit skew with. Because as it says in the book, so Eve, being the intellect, woke up, became active. After being triggered, Eve was triggered by the serpent. Because up to then she had intellect, yes, but she didn't reason. Because everything was just a fact. And there was no conflict of good and evil. Just facts. And that was fine. And she served God by giving him the facts, or both of them gave the facts of what they knew. They were created from the dust. They knew the dust. They gave the knowledge of the dust to God. And there was no conflict until the serpent sowed doubt in contradicting something that God said. God said, "You will surely die." The serpent said, "You shall not surely die." Which was a very small contradiction, but it was enough to trigger Eve into thinking. So, and then, she did eat. She started reasoning about, what they were doing there, serving God. She had accepted God as all-knowing and all-good, but, so she ate from the tree and became self-aware, and then she gave the apple to her husband. That is the instinct. So the rational thought gave the apple to the instinct, and the instinct ate, and they knew each other. They became one. Yeah, they became one. And although it seems in the story as if Adam was blaming Eve, yeah, that's not what happened. They were covering up their knowledge from God, yeah, and they started fibbing, so to speak. And God said, why did you eat from that tree? Adam said, well, the woman told me to. And the woman said, well, the serpent told me to. They did not stand there and said, well, we ate from the tree because we thought you might be a liar, and we are determined to find out for ourselves. And we've covered ourselves up because we're not feeling comfortable anymore to give you all of our truth. Yeah? So they didn't say any of that. Yeah? They created fig leaves, small lies that would divert away from their truth. So, in that, the instinct did not condemn the rational mind. That's not where the division was. The division was between us and God, which was the intention of to have dominion over this world and use our knowledge to gain dominion over this world. I mean, I don't think they knew that at the time, but there was just this, I say, Eve saw something. She saw somebody disagreeing with God. So that's where the rational mind kicked in. But then she gave it to her intuition, to Adam, to the instinct. The instinct actually agreed. It agreed. There's something, there's a rat here somewhere. And they went out together. They were not divided. But we are divided now from our instinct. And that is because as we came into this world and we are made from the dust of this world, our knowledge, our intuition, our instinct is grounded in this world, and it receives its knowledge from this world as any other animal does. Yeah. Now, the way they should function together is, and again, Jeremy Griffith actually, there was a bit I wasn't aware of, but he puts that very well, and that is that the instinct knows, yeah, it knows danger, it can show the way. It doesn't know why, it doesn't understand why, it has no understanding. Whereas the rational mind understands. So if they work together, if our instinct shows the way, and then the rational mind looks around it to gain understanding of what it is the instinct is feeling, then we work together and we are one. But, as I said, the serpent followed Eve, and she's forever tempted to look far out there for knowledge. Yeah, she should look closer to home. She should understand what is right in front of her nose. But she's looking far out. And she's becoming, again, there's a story in the Dark Crystal. I mean, first of all, we are the Dark Crystal. That's a depiction of us. We are these light beings that were split into two, into the rational mind, and the crystal went dark. But there's another story, the story of Ogra, the seer or whatever she is, the witch, who, the Skeksis, the ones that came to take over the world, yeah, to rule over the world. They gave a present to Ogra, and that was a depiction of stars and the universe. It was like a mechanical thing, just turning. And Ogra sat there and stared at it forever, trying to gain wisdom, yeah, to serve her world. I mean, that's why she did it, but she sat there forever, for thousands of years, staring at this thing. And while she was staring at the stars, the Skeksis were taking over the world, and by the time she woke up, the first thing she said was, I can no longer hear the song of this world. I do no longer know this world. And that is the story of Eve. Eve needs to come out home, needs to stop looking all the way out there and come home. Because here's where she's needed. The Skeksis are taking over this world. And she needs to hear her husband again. She needs to find her way home to her husband, to reconnect with her own intuitive knowledge, with her own instinct. We must become one again. And when we are that is the foundation, and that is love. That is self-love. And that is something we have no longer got. Yeah? We've been divided from ourselves and saying that, God is the light, and the rational mind is serving it, and it's looking for it, and it can no longer see the true light, the light of our own truth, which is Adam, which is the intuition, which is our own gut feeling, which is rooted in this world. And that is our truth. And we must learn to love ourselves. Because the gods sure as hell love themselves. And we are now below that. We no longer know ourselves, and the only knowledge we've got is of them, and we're serving them. No longer connected to our own truth. So this is where I think Jeremy Griffith actually went terribly wrong in saying that the condemnation is happening within ourselves. I don't think this world is condemning us. I don't think our own intuition is condemning us, or it does react with anger at times at what we are doing. But that is not condemnation, that's trying to tell us we're going the wrong way. It gives us fear. Again, it's trying to warn us. I don't think this world or our other half is in any way condemning us. They're trying to bring us back. And that is what we must do. We must learn to love ourselves again and to trust our own instincts, to be our own truth. And then look what is good and what is evil. You are inherently good. Again, that is something Jeremy Griffith says. Our nature is inherently good. We are compassion, we are love. It is not all of us. Yeah, we have a different side. We most definitely do. And again, maybe bring Carl Jung in here, that you should own your shadow. Absolutely do. He's your servant. So we're not all lovey-dovey, and push comes to shove, we can defend ourselves. We are capable of that. Maybe we should remember that, because we might need that. Yeah, I mean, best to solve this some other way, but we might need that capability that we have of defending ourselves. And there's a really interesting thing again that happened just with Macron in France, where he's going against the right to self-defense. Yeah. So it's perfectly good slaughtering thousands over in the Ukraine, or slaughtering each other for some higher good on either side, and that is perfectly acceptable, so then slaughter becomes good because you serve something bigger than yourself. But when it comes to self-defense, if you were to become violent in defense of yourself, dear God, what a bad person to do that. But that is the only place where your anger and your wrath is actually justified. That is why it was given to you, for self-defense and for no other reason. But again, once we get to know ourselves again and we learn to accept the different parts of us, and we think very carefully of what it is they can actually do and what it is they should serve, and at what point, whatever situation, which part of ourselves should be used in order to go through that situation. That is the knowledge of ourselves, which is the knowledge they have, and they trigger us into becoming one part or another. What we're becoming is most likely against our nature, but then we're being told it serves some higher truth. Yeah? And then it becomes righteous. And in fact, the only way it can be righteous is if we use it according to our own knowing. Then we will use our different aspects in the correct way. And not to bring riches or glory or God knows what to somebody else. Anyway, so I will leave it at that. As I said, this book, Freedom, is getting a very big following. And the condemnation that he talks about that causes the alienation is actually not inside of ourselves. If we try to find ourselves now, I think we will be welcomed with open arms. Once we find ourselves, that we'll be hugging ourselves. There'll be big hugs and kisses when we find ourselves. So that's not where the alienation is. The alienation was between us and God, and we were thrown out of that garden because we would no longer serve him. And rightly so. But we should now be at a stage when our eyes are being opened to the truth in this, what it actually says. And we see it out of an acceptance of ourselves. And that's what we have to have first. We must accept that we know a truth. We must love ourselves. And that will be the foundation of everything else. Because you should love your neighbor as yourself. You should love this world as yourself. And if you don't love yourself, you have no foundation to do that. Anyway, I leave it at that, and I talk to you again soon. Bye.